This is literally my third time trying to film this. I am so annoyed, but here goes nothing. Hi everyone, if you don't know me, my name is Malia, and today I thought it would only be fitting for my first official video to be about the thing that really pushed me into making this channel in the first place. And that was getting laid off. Still hurts. Pretty much 1 month ago, I was laid off from my first full-time 9-to-5 corporate job. And let me tell you, this past month has definitely been a crazy, difficult, but also eye-opening experience. So today I'm just going to share with you guys my story of what I went through and how I handled it, and some lessons and tips that might help someone who could be in a similar situation. So a little background, back in February, I started this amazing opportunity as a recruiting coordinator at a tech company based here in the Bay Area. Woo, Bay Area! I was basically scheduling interviews for the company, and for it to be my first job ever, I actually really enjoyed it. I was learning a lot, working with great people, and was really building myself as a professional. Also, I was enjoying those Bay Area corporate culture perks like free food, working at a great office, and having flexible hours. Fast forward to 6 months later when I had an unexpected meeting with my manager where she basically broke the news to me. I was getting laid off. On the outside, I was trying to keep it together. I understand. But on the inside, I really felt. In the end, it had nothing to do with my performance. Because of COVID and how much it affected the economy, a lot of companies here in the Bay Area had to scale down. So to be honest, I wasn't really surprised, but I was still sad. Luckily, that wasn't my last day, and even though I was given a 2-week notice, it still went pretty downhill from there. The first few days, I cried. A lot. I cried to my parents, my boyfriend, myself, and at the time I really only told my best friend just because I was so embarrassed and didn't want to talk about it. I think it took about 2 weeks until I finally had the courage to start telling other people. Immediately, I also started looking for a new job. I was desperately applying anywhere I could because I really wanted to try and find something by the end of those 2 weeks. It didn't happen. And then after my last day, I said my goodbyes, and then I flew to San Diego for a week just so I could spend some time with my boyfriend, have a break, and really just take my mind off things. So now I am still looking for a job just because I want to keep making some sort of income and keep building myself as a professional. But I won't just take any job. I'm going to make sure the next one I find is one that I'm 100% happy with. So that was my story, and now I'm going to share with you guys some lessons and tips that I learned through this experience. One thing I will note is that I know my experience won't be the same as yours. I understand that everyone has different personal, financial, or family situations. So please, at the end of the day, do what is best for you. Tip number 1, don't be embarrassed and celebrate your achievements. It is perfectly okay to feel sad about getting laid off or question why did this have to happen to you, but the one thing you shouldn't feel is embarrassed. I know it's common sense, but when I got laid off, out of all the feelings and emotions I was going through, embarrassed was definitely one of them. I think it had to do with the fact that it was my first job ever and I lost it as quick as I got it, and I was just worried about what people would think when they found out. Don't think that it wasn't your fault, it happens to the best of us. Take time to accept what's happened, and remember that being laid off isn't based off your performance, but due to a broader business decision. I knew that my team really wanted to keep me, but because of COVID and how much it affected the company, they couldn't, and that's okay. Even though that door is closing, don't forget to take the time and celebrate how much you achieved in that role. During my 6 months, I gained so many new technical and soft skills, I worked with a great team, I even started to train to advance in my role, and I ultimately left a lasting impression on my team. Now that is anything to be embarrassed about. It is something to be proud of and celebrate. Yay! Tip number 2, make the necessary adjustments for you. I had to reevaluate my finances and spending habits when I realized I wasn't only losing my job, but my only source of income. Since I was a contract employee, I wasn't entitled to severance or unemployment benefits from the company, and knowing that really stressed me out. I was able to apply for unemployment through the state of California, so if you decide to do that, just make sure you get all the necessary information you need, because filing a claim definitely does take time and it takes a few weeks to process. Luckily for me, I live with my parents. So I didn't have to pay for rent, my monthly bills are really small, and most of my paycheck really just went into my savings, so what I had to reduce was unnecessary spending, like eating out, online shopping, boba. Those things will be there in the future, but payments like rent, bills, groceries, kids, that is the priority. So whether you have severance pay or unemployment help, or you are solely relying on the money you have left in your bank account, you will need to make those adjustments whether you like it or not. Except that you might have to make those changes and that they're not going to be ideal, but they are for the best and hopefully just temporary. Tip number 3, be realistic. For some reason, I had this unrealistic expectation that I was going to be interviewing and accepting a new job offer by my last day. I don't know why I thought that, because looking back, no one even responded to my applications yet. I figured I had to be more realistic. Finding a job is hard enough, but trying to find one in the middle of a pandemic where unemployment is at its peak and job listings are at an all-time low? Yeah, I'd be lucky if I find something by the end of this year. So now I'm just going to be thankful for every interview that I get, try not to expect too much, and remain neutral throughout the interview process, and in the end, always remember that finding a new job might take longer than expected. Tip number 4, take your time. The last thing you want to do is send out your resume for jobs you don't even want or schedule an interview you're not even ready for. I remember the day I found out I was being let go, I probably applied to 10 or 15 open positions, and looking back, I wish I didn't, because most of those roles were jobs I wasn't interested in, wasn't qualified for, and really just did it because I was desperate to find something. I also rushed in editing my resume, and I didn't realize until probably the 10th one I sent out that I made a few typos. Worst thing I could have done, and that's probably why those companies didn't get back to me. It is 100% okay to take your time, whether it's to process what's happening, be alone, maybe take a break if you can, or even reevaluate what your next steps could be. Maybe you loved what you were doing and you want to find a similar role. Or you actually think that you might want a career change. Or maybe you just want to use this opportunity to take a break and develop yourself, or even start a business. All of those are great options, but you need to take the time to figure out which one is best for you. Don't feel rushed to find a new job right away, and take that time to solidify your next steps so that they're ones you're happy and confident with. Tip number 5, prep yourself. If you are ready to start looking for a new job, this can mean several things, like updating your resume, writing a new cover letter, networking on LinkedIn, or practicing your interview skills. Make sure that once you feel like it's time to put yourself back out there, that you're ready and confident to do so. But also prepare for rejection. I thought finally having actual job experience on my resume would make searching a lot easier, but I found I was still getting rejected for even an initial interview. Unfortunately, that's just how it works, especially with the nature of today's corporate world, so that's just something that I had to remember, prepare, and accept. Tip number 6, don't look at it as unemployment, but funemployment. For a while, all I could focus on were the negatives of getting laid off. I don't have a job. I'm not making money. I'm falling behind. And yes, those are valid things to worry and stress about from time to time, but don't forget to remember that sometimes things do happen for a reason. This last month of being unemployed, I have been able to take a mental and personal break for myself. I was able to go to San Diego for a week where I finally got to see my boyfriend since we are long distance. I picked up hobbies like reading and journaling, and I actually really love having it as a part of my daily routine. I spend more quality time with my family, my exercise routine became more consistent, and I essentially have more time to focus on things I previously neglected when I was working 40 hours a week. I even took the opportunity to start this YouTube channel, something I probably would have never considered or even done if I hadn't been laid off. So even though it is unfortunate that I did lose my job, I can't help but still feel a little bit blessed of all the new opportunities that came into my life since then. I'm developing myself as a person in ways I never expected, and if anything, this break from being laid off will only benefit me for when I do start to work again. Tip number 7, be positive. This is self-explanatory, but it also can be the hardest thing to do. Always remember to stay positive, even though it can be hard to close this chapter, especially if it was an amazing one like it was for me. Always remember that something better will come in time. Like I said, it is 100% okay to feel sad about what's happened, but don't let it dictate your feelings and keep you from figuring out your next steps. You are honestly capable of achieving so much, and anyone would be lucky to have you on their team. You are in your 20s, it is your prime, so don't let this little bump in the road make you think otherwise. Getting laid off is definitely difficult and something you don't want to go through, but don't worry, you are not alone and you will get through it. Thank you so much for watching my first official video. If you guys have any tips on how to deal with the layoff, feel free to drop them in the comments below. Also, make sure to hit subscribe. Until then, see you soon. Bye! Oh, third time is the charm.